Today's video was not sponsored by anybody. I would love to be sponsored by Lancer. So if you get around to seeing this video and you really like it, maybe you should throw me some some sponsorship. That'd be pretty cool of you. Today's video is quick actions. Very similar to full actions, they perform a faster and more niche function in Lancer, providing pilots with many more options per turn at the cost of a bit of power or direct impact that a full action would normally give you. Quick actions are super helpful when you need to solve multiple problems at once, like picking off low health swarms, or even working to accomplish complicated tasks mid combat, such as hacking a panel while also defending an objective. Today I'll be swiftly running over the quick actions, alongside some small rules interactions I'm aware of. To start this off, I'll be referring to some of the quick actions as QAs in this video, to save me a bit of breath and you some time. The Skirmish QA allows you to pick a mount and fire the weapon, alongside firing the auxiliary weapon on the same mount, if you have one. Unlike Barrage, you cannot pick two mounts, nor can you pick a super heavy weapon, as your super heavies require your full attention and require the Barrage action. The Ram QA is a lovely QA. It's an attack with a focus on trying to push back or knock down your target. To Ram, you make a melee attack against an adjacent character of the same size or smaller than you. On a success, your target is knocked prone, and you may also choose to knock them back by one space, directly away from you. I've seen this being used in so many scenarios where knocking somebody prone is a great way to keep them in that small combat to jump on them later. The grappling QA is one of my favorites, and similarly to wrestling, sometimes the best course of action is to grab your target and squeeze the life out of them. And unlike in D&D 5e, the rules are very easy to follow, alongside granting the person performing the action a good bonus and incentive to do so. To grapple, you choose an adjacent character and make a melee attack. On a hit, both characters become engaged. Neither of them can boost or take reactions for the duration of the grapple. The smaller character becomes immobilized, but moves when the larger party moves, mirroring their movement. Obviously, you're carrying them with you. If both parties are the same size, either can make a contested hull check on the start of their turn. The winner counts as larger than the loser until the contest is repeated. This way, the person grappling you can pull you aside. A grapple only ends when either character breaks adjacency, such as they're knocked away from each other by an effect. The attacker chooses to end the grapple as a free action. The defender breaks free by succeeding in a contested hold check as a quick action. If the grapple involves more than two characters, the same rules apply, but when counting size, add together the size of all characters on each side. For example, if two size 1 allied characters are grappling a single size 2 enemies, they are both size 2. Grapple is really good here, mostly because the best part of being the grappler, it allows you to move the other person wherever you want. I think that is a very powerful ability that is very underrated, and you should be looking into doing that more often, especially with the knockback like Ram and some other weapons that allow you to throw people backwards. Super underrated. Definitely check it out. Following that is the Quick Tech QA, which allows you to pick one from the same list presented in the full actions list video, but I'll cover them again very quickly right here. To bolster is to boost the computing power of an ally, giving them a sizable bonus on the next skill check or save they perform. To scan is to analyze a mech within sensors for sensitive information. To lock on is to mark an enemy mech for allies or yourself to attack one time with a bonus to hit. And lastly, invade is to hack into an enemy mech and wreak havoc on a success. Although you may only get one option with this quick hack, this combined with another action like skirmish or even two with the overcharge ability can make for a powerful and devastating turn. The eject QA is interesting because unlike dismount, it throws you far away from your mech and leaves you and your mech in a vulnerable position. Both you and the mech gain the impaired condition, and although it's not the worst fate, I would personally just rather use dismount because you get a free shield in it. Shutdown, in tandem with the boot up full action, is a way to keep your mech from frying when things go wrong in the field. And outside combat, it makes it easier to hide when trying to stay under the radar. Although I'll personally admit I haven't seen this in combat yet, I can imagine it has its own uses, as risky as it can be. Alongside the use of shutting down an NHP cascading, NHPs are the equivalent of AI companions. NHPs cascading are them going crazy and trying to go Skynet on you. You get a bonus as followed when performing a shutdown. All of your heat is cleared alongside the exposed condition. Any cascading NHPs return to a normal state. Any statuses or conditions affecting the mech caused by tech actions, such as lock-on, immediately end. The mech gains immunity to all tech actions and attacks, including from any allied characters, because it's off. None of the computers are on. The mech is stunned indefinitely. Nothing can prevent this condition, and it remains so until the mech ceases to be shut down. The only way to remove shutdown is to boot up the mech. I think personally this might just be for keeping NHPs, the AIs of the game, from going wild mid-combat, but it's pretty cool food for thought to think of a mech that hacks into you, turns your AI crazy, and also keeps you from turning off your mech. Just saying. Could be hilarious. Next up is the Boost QA. Probably the most helpful of the quick actions, this allows you to move more in a single turn. The minimum is 1 tile, and the maximum is up to double of your speed. Some mechs have boost abilities, allowing them to battering ram targets into objects, and others have restrictions like boosting in a single line, rather than any free movement. But moving more in any game has done very well for me, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I love to use it. To hide as a QA is fun to think about in a narrative sense. It makes a lot of logical sense that the pilots, with training or even just innate talent, have improved reflexes. And it's a lot like in the movies where people pass the heroes, see something out of the corner of their eye, whip around, and see nothing, as the heroes have dashed behind cover to hunker down. There are a lot of specific rules involving hide, and I will try to break it down as fast as I can for the dungeon masters and players who want to really try to understand it. To hide, you must not be engaged. You must be either outside of your enemy's line of sight, obscured by sufficient cover, or invisible. If you hide while meeting one of these conditions, you gain the hidden status. If you are invisible, you can always hide, regardless of cover, unless you're engaged. So the first rules make a lot of sense, where as long as you can find a place to hide, you can just hide. Invisible people can hide anywhere. You're invisible. Duh. But more so, as long as your mech is smaller than the cover you're hiding behind, you automatically get the hidden status. To be hidden means you can't be targeted or seen by anybody trying to, but most people aren't so stupid. If they watch you run behind a wall that they're shooting you at, they're going to assume you're hiding there. And although they may not be able to target you directly, a good old-fashioned flamethrower or carpet bomb might get you to come out. Similar to invisibility magic in Dungeons & Dragons, and stealth mechanics in many other games, breaking stealth is as easy as being spotted. Attacking, taking an action that is considered hostile, like pushing or grabbing, boosting away, or even using a reaction. Again, I find that the stealth mechanic is a lot more fun than it's presented as. I highly suggest that you try a mech that capitalizes on the stealth mechanic even as a secondary or even side bonus. Next up is the search QA, the opposite of hide, which allows you to look for a character with the hidden status. You roll a systems check versus their agility. Deciding who wins on this little hide and seek is just one skill check away. When the target loses a hidden status this way, they are found by every person on the map. As you can assume, it's radioed in or otherwise flagged and seen by others. The quick activation allows you to use a system that requires the quick activation requirement, but you can't turn on a system more than once in a round unless you can do so as a free action. So you can turn on a system with a quick action, you can overcharge, and then turn on the system again, if you use it, with a free action. To prepare is you ready an action for a certain event to happen. Similar to the held action mechanic in Dungeons & Dragons, you wait for the optimal opportunity to strike with your action. If that's waiting for a target to get within sensors, or a person to spring a trap before gunning their mech down, it matters not. What matters instead is simply the order in which the player presents the action, and the trigger for the action to their game master. What this really means is that as a player, you need to be clear about what you mean about what you want to do. Make sure the entire table understands the action you want to take, whether it's attacking, hacking, or something alike, and what the trigger is going to be to activate the action, whether it's the target getting within range or a person giving a signal. How you're going to do it when it happens, and everything else. That. And how you're going to do it when it does happen. To observers, this is an obvious action. If somebody can see you, they can tell when you're preparing a plan, although they might not know what to make of it. Secondly, to prepare costs a quick action, but in addition, you must stockpile the action you're choosing. In this example, we're stockpiling the quick tech invasion and holding it down for the trigger to happen, the trigger being that somebody is coming within sensors. While holding this quick tech action invasion, I cannot take reactions normally. Instead, I must lose the held action and waste it if I wish to take my reaction. There is a rule here that I want to make clear, and that is regardless of if the target completely does something else and gets away, or if the target never gets close enough to trigger the event, you lose the action you held, wasting your turn completely. It is very risky, but the overwhelming power and surprise you can drop on a party or person with a well-disciplined group is well worth the risk. Up next is the reload action for the pilot, allowing them to, well, reload a weapon of theirs. As both mech and pilot have their own individual gear loadout, sometimes it is necessary to take the time out of your mech to fight, and take further time to reload the weapon on your person. The last quick action is self-destruct, which I cannot stress enough is just absolutely hilarious and so useful in many situations. But as you can assume, it is as risky and as dangerous as a plan gets, and as close to a death sentence as you can get without just fully guaranteeing it. You set the mech to self-destruct between the end of your current turn or from 2 turns from now, anytime between then. You set this timer and give yourself a little time to run away. Unless you're a Manticore player, which I salute you for your bravery. It is a super dramatic way to keep the party safe or to stop a plan in motion. I personally love this option way too much, and I don't mind showing it a bit of bias. I wanted to get these done pretty quickly and keep the trend going of videos being made. I hope you enjoyed this quick action rundown, and I will see you on the next one. And remember to keep your weapons reloaded and all of your gear packed up nice and tidy. You never know when you're going to need it. If streaming games, playing D&D, talking about all things nerdy, and even embarrassing myself on live is good enough for you, well, maybe check out my content. And thanks for watching this one. I really appreciate it. If you need to find me, go ahead and look at my links down below, and maybe check out some of my other videos on TikTok and Twitch.